Awesome. Hey everyone. This is another video that I am making for astrology purposes. Over the past 6 months, I've come across a lot of information that I didn't know a year ago. So as I continue to accumulate this knowledge, it expands for me. I wanted to share a little bit of that expansion with you. If you're familiar with astrology, that's amazing. If you're not, I have went to great lengths to make it a visual experience, because there is a bottom line here, whether you are proficient in astrology or not. If you have no idea and you don't have any desire to learn astrology, that's okay. But in this video, I'm going to talk to everyone about how astrology works, what it is, and what it's giving us, and what it gave me, and what I want to share with you all. I guess I should also disclaim that there are different types of astrology. There is very old astrology from Hermetic times. There's astrology from the Greek mythology. There's Vedic astrology, Chinese astrology. What they're all corresponding and communicating are archetypes. So when we take just traditional, original astrology, I guess that would actually be Vedic and Hermetic. There are a lot of ancient cultures, all ancient cultures were aware of the stars, the constellations that make up certain certain pictures in the sky. Those are formations of energy, and their energy coming through the dielectric fields that we know as space and time and all that. Their influence and their energies come from a certain constellation. Depending how close constellations are to one another, they could synergize, and they could have an influence that makes up one archetype. It's a lot easier to understand in Vedic because they teach that the constellations are influencing these archetypes. So whether you caught all that or not, we can carry on. The archetypes that we have in this system of traditional Western astrology, it's also known as tropical, Placidus astrology, those all correspond with Western. So the original 12 archetypes, constellations, whose energy are kind of influencing our life at a level that we aren't aware of. They are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. And it's going to be everything you see here. This is representative of the first archetype. So it has slice number 1. Second archetype is Taurus. That's the second house. These 12 archetypes rule certain parts of life because they are aligned in the sky, and they are aligned in a way that it's a domino effect of archetypes. Aries is the smallest, Pisces is the biggest, so it's actually a spiral getting bigger. Because this is easier to read, we do it this way. But in terms of nature, in terms of how we see it manifest in our everyday life, this is actually a seashell spiral that gets larger and larger. And if you want to know why that is, we can talk about that. Fibonacci sequence, golden ratio. So everything starts with a Aryan burst spark of energy, goes through all of these cycles of life that represent different cycles of life until we get to Pisces, which is the last, the oldest, the 12th sign. It represents the subconscious, and that is important to know. Pisces represents the subconscious, altered states of consciousness. It governs sleep and meditation, a lot of isolation in the grand scheme of everything else. It's very Piscean. So that is the largest, most wise, and it's the oldest sign. Aries is always the first. It is the smallest, it's the baby, it's the seed that is determined to bust through the soil. So I could go on with analogies all day, but I won't. The reason for this video is because there is this basic lineup that is very well known. First, second, third house, fourth house, fifth house, all the way to the 12th house. This is what astrologers use to look at your life. For those that don't know, I'll run through it really quickly. First house is your body, yourself, your physical appearance, your physical actions, what you are physically capable of, your physical gifts, your physical health. The first house, governed by Aries, is always the self. The second house rules our values, our money, banking. It rules gardens. It's Taurus, so it's all about the abundant bull that works the field. They are very strong, tough. This is a powerhouse. Anything Taurian is very abundant, fertile, beautiful. It's associated with Venus. So the second house is everything we value, everything we say. Taurus rules the mouth, what we eat, what we say. It also rules singing. So I'll try to go through these quicker. Third house is everything just outside of us and our belongings. It's the mailman, it's the grocery store, it's our brothers and sisters, it's our aunts and uncles, our cousins, it's people we see in passing when we go out. The third house rules short trips just outside of our domain, outside of us. So this represents travel, short travel, commutes, to and from work, radio stations. Gemini is all about communication, so local radio stations are a very Gemini thing. Talking, yeah, Gemini also rules the twins. It's duality, so this is where Taurus and Aries now develop a sense of other. That's the whole reason for the third house. So that is Gemini, duality, balance, communication, information, short commutes around yourself, mail. So that's all Gemini. Fourth house, Cancer. Everyone loves the Cancerian mother. It represents the home, the structure for the home, the mother, the moon, practical emotion. It's the water sign that's more practical. And the fourth house is also a point in our chart where we're very, very, very comfortable, where we retreat. It's where we like to be when things don't go well. It's very much a comforting, whatever sign, whatever planet, whatever is going on in the fourth house, we're kind of good with it. It's kind of our homeostasis. No matter how chaotic it is, it's like this part of our chart that we're really used to. And it should be a house of nurturing and stability, but the fourth house has had every other archetype and planet in it. It just represents the part of us that we really retreat to recharge our batteries. Fifth house is ruled by Leo. Everyone loves the courageous lion. This is the house of creativity, children, celebrations. Anything to do with going out and having fun is very Leo. Leos like to go out to eat, have a good time. They're all about entertainment. Movie stars are very dominated by the Leo Aquarius axis. So Leo is anything like fame, creativity, excuse me. It's also, like I said, love affairs, not committed relationships, just flings, There's a lot of information for the 5th house. It rules the ego as well. It's the creative force that we do value to create the voice we want in this life. That's Leo. 6th house is Virgo, and it's the very analytical sign of day to day. This house represents work, what we do at work, what we do for work, but it's more like the gigs and the work that we do to pay the rent, pay the bills. It's kind of the house of inconveniences because Virgo is the only one taking responsibility for everything. It's very micromanaging, it's very analytical, thorough, gets things done. It's an earth sign, so it literally gets things done, but it's also ruled by Mercury, so there's a lot of earth mama energy there, channelers. Biochemistry is ruled by Virgo. Anything to do with a lot of data, but also a lot of earth and a lot of information. They can also handle a lot of moving parts, things that aren't related. They're very good at finding things to relate to each other, to get things completed. What's the word I'm looking for? They're very eco-friendly, they're eco-conscious, they're very adaptable, Virgo. But that's only if it's a healthy Virgo and its healthy aspects. So those are the first 6 houses, and those represent early life, just basic, everyday. Those 6 houses, whatever they have in them in your chart, you will repeat almost minute to minute. It's very pendulum back and forth. So Libra, moving on to the next 6 houses that are going to oppose the first 6. Libra is exactly opposite from Aries. Aries is the self, is the body, the physical body. It rules the mind. And Libra is the opposite. It rules other relationships, committed relationships, legal contracts, peace, politics, anything to do with a society or a group of people or litigation. Libra is the scales of justice, the judge. It likes to acquire all the information, but only to make a decision. And those are usually decisions based on relationships. These are soul contracts that we've made in the 7th house. Libra rules all of the committed long-term contracts that we have to fulfill. It also is an indicator of how your relationships play out. Libra is all relationships, and it is the fall time. Aries is the spring. It's the first week of spring. It's when spring has sprung. And Libra is the fall equinox, when the sun is shifting into winter and it's getting a little chillier and colder, shorter days. So that's why the Libra icon is the sun setting, because it's equalness. It represents anything of equal measure, balance, but it's also the mark of winter coming. So Scorpio is ruled by the month of October and November mostly. So literally the seasons are changing. 8th house is Scorpio. It's death and rebirth. The seasons change, but we move on to a new season. Scorpio is darkness. It's when we see darker days, literally. This is Halloween, Thanksgiving time, things decaying, but us trying to find use of things because they're decaying. It's very much a scavenger sign where Scorpio sees that resources are changing or diminishing, so they're very active to master their resources. It's also the opposite of Taurus, which rules abundance and earthiness and solidity and beauty. Scorpio rules scarcity, and it's very much like a vulture in that it will make the good out of any situation it's given, because that is the situation it's given. It has to make the most of that. It rules other people's money. So combined resources, this is where actual banking and actual institutions of banks reside, is Scorpio. Like, you don't get to know how much money everyone has, like only they know. They're very much in control. Scorpio is all about control. This is the sign for control. Mastery, because it's a water fire uh, water fire sign. It's also a master of the desert. And I mean, the Scorpios can live through anything. So they also represent rebirth, because they are the producers of something when there's nothing. That's Scorpio. That's the 8th house, endings and beginnings. 9th house, Sagittarius. This sign is opposite short trips, Gemini. Sagittarius is long trips, journeys abroad, journeys for higher knowledge you can only get abroad. Going to talk to the guru on the island that lives far away is very Sagittarian. Theology, philosophy, any kind of moral and spiritual yearning. Scorpio too is a spiritual yearning, but Sagittarius is actually going on the physical spiritual journey. They are taking themselves to another place physically by the will they have, because Sagittarius is ruled by December. It's very this is Christmas time. They have made the most of their situation in Scorpio. And now Sagittarius is, you could say, renewed with a new sense of joy from being reborn. And they see who they truly are. The guru is representative of wisdom. So Sagittarius is ruling wisdom, finding wisdom. And once we realize in Sagittarius who we really are in our spirit and our soul, that is what Sagittarius is about. Finding the soul and the wisdom in things. Opposite Gemini, who just wants to communicate information and give it out, project it out, and relay it and give it to someone else. Gemini is very much that parrot energy, where Sagittarius is very much a peacock energy. It just radiates beauty because it has realized it is what it is, and it's happy with that. Sagittarius rules jolliness, being like all these Christmas themes are very Sagittarian, like have a holly jolly Christmas, a very merry New Year. Sagittarius rules joy, wisdom, just absolute bubbliness. It's a very bubbly energy. It's a muted fire. So there's a lot of joy and spark and aspiration. Sagittarius rules aspirations, reaching for the stars, literally reaching for the stars. So when we do that, we find joy in just being, and that is Sagittarius, 9th house of higher learning. It also rules college. It also rules, the victorious story, the story you tell when you have made a victory and you come home to either write about it. Sagittarius also rules the writer, the author, publishing. So, sorry that was a lot. Moving on, after Sagittarius, after we reach this wisdom of just being and we see our soul and we see our true self, which honestly is a rarity probably still today. I don't get out much anymore, but it's not looking good. Once we do that, Capricorn is the the goat without legs. It's the goat that's climbing the mountain without any legs, and it literally takes its whole existence to climb the mountain. But its only desire, wish, and agenda is to climb that mountain. So Capricorn is all about climbing the the peak to gain all of the accomplishments it's ever wanted. 10th house rules career and reputation. Capricorn is all about structure and systems because, of course, if you are a goat with no hind legs and you're literally carrying, you know, this, it's a shell, it's a seashell. So you're a big old goat with only 2 legs and you're carting up this seashell on your back because you're part ocean, part earth. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes emotional maturity. This is the sign of all accomplishments. When we rise to the occasion of Capricorn, we go through initiations. Capricorn rules every initiation. It rules the government, rules the father. It is opposite Cancer, the mother, the 4th house. So Cancer is mother, the home. Capricorn is father and work and career, and it's very much the divine feminine in the 4th house and the divine masculine in the 10th house. Those are 2 very, very, very important houses to the human race in general. There's a lot of generational healing in just those 2 signs alone, in that axis of father, mother. I'd say, you know, like, I don't think it's an exaggeration that most of humanity is working on balancing that axis. That's probably one of the main reasons we're here on this planet. Balancing the feminine, masculine, the mother, the father, and finding the equilibrium, the justice, the harmony, because they have the answers to each other. Cancer needs to be more Capricorn, and Capricorn needs to be more Cancerian. For them both to succeed, they have to embrace their opposite. That's a theme with astrology, and that's just an example. But opposites are opposite because they're polar in almost every way. But to find balance with that extremity, they have to look at their opposite and take on a lot of those characteristics for them to be whole, complete, and healed. So it's like the CEO of a business really won't last long if he is either taking his work too far and being a workaholic and neglecting his Cancerian nature, his Cancerian needs, like taking a bath. Anything like bathroom hygiene related is Cancerian. Hygiene is Cancer. So when we work a lot, we definitely do neglect ourselves, and that's also this axis. So it represents a lot that as humans we struggle with. But I'll move on. Aquarius rules the internet. It's the networking on the largest scale possible. It represents the whole world in that the whole world is connected through the World Wide Web. Aquarius rules humanitarianism, because when we all are connecting information, valuable information across the globe, we actually progress faster. So Aquarius rules utopia. It rules to have found a place in society that is addressing adversity. I think I even wrote that down. Yeah. Aquarian is very detached from difficult emotion. It has gone through, it's gone through soul contracts, Scorpio, finding wisdom in Sagittarius and applying it in Capricorn. So there's a lot of detachment from feeling in Aquarius because it has a mission. It sees the future. Aquarius is a very futuristic, modern sign. It like rules neon colors and shit. Sorry. Aquarius is all about friendships, people that you feel a great deal for, friends, but you're detached from emotionally. It's not like the house of mother or the house of Libra soul contracts where we feel this constant magnetic electric draw or like pull towards someone even if we don't want to. Like we have to fulfill things in those houses. And Aquarius is just about networking. It's not about emotion. It's just about healing. And it's about addressing people that have gone through adversity specifically. So it's a healing sign, but it's also opposite Leo. This Aquarius Leo axis is also really popular in healing circles because Leo is the ego. Leo is the creative part of it is our heart. Leo rules the heart. So it's the things that our ego is attached to. And the opposite of that is Aquarius, where we let go of the one ego that we know to serve the whole. Aquarius is about the whole world and about healing and about addressing adversity. And Leo is really about entertaining yourself, making sure your vices and your, not even vices, but just like overindulgence. Leo can be very indulgent with the things that are on its heart. It's in the house of the arts, creativity, the theater, and it's very dramatic. And Aquarius is very detached. So as you can see again, the healing for one is in the other, and people with really strong, balanced Leo Aquarius placements are usually famous because Leo is fame and Aquarius is the internet. And usually people are famous if everyone in the world knows them. So that is that axis of manifestation in in this 3D realm, is this: if you want to acquire healing and actually make a difference in this Aquarius energy, there's a lot of letting go of what is really pleasurable to you, your ego. Leo is simply about pleasure, simply about entertainment, simply about what the heart wants. And Aquarius doesn't, it has to use that to help, but as you can see, they're very opposite for a very specific reason. And usually Aquarius rules destiny, things that are bound to occur in such a way, because when the universe it doesn't know anything different than to balance things out. So this Aquarian energy is futuristic. It's full of destined energy because it's the almost the last sign. By the time we get to Pisces, we need to have addressed all of our imbalances as individuals and as a whole unit, because by the time we get to the last house, Pisces, we have let go. There is a lot of believing in the vast unknown, and Pisces is very content with just being alone, just being by itself. Pisces rules the entire ocean, and as they say, we are not a drop in the ocean, we are the ocean in a drop. That is a Pisces Virgo analogy. Virgo is the tiny details and the tiny data, all of the little code, and Pisces is the entire matrix, everything, the ocean, the cosmos, any vastness is Piscean. So by the time we get to Pisces in any cycle of life, we are actually in Pisces season right now in February. And as you know, New Year's is over, Valentine's is over. We're starting to not really, this is the time of year when we don't have as much going for us. Nothing's growing yet. Everything has happened. Like the year has started over, but there's just this like in-betweenness, and it's because we're in Pisces season. So those are the 12 houses and what they govern. Oh, sorry, Pisces rules subconscious. That's really important. I said that before. So now we can move on to actually talking about how this is going to help. And I did actually do a video on all of this at length. The pituitary pineal video that I did make, it's on my YouTube channel. I would like to add some things, but if you want to take a look at the video for this called Balanced Healing, Yin and Yang, this is really important because all of the archetypes that we just talked about, all of the representations of life that we just talked about, are also represented in these wonderful little microscopic minerals called cell salts. They're also known as the salts of salvation. They are the most microscopic, bioavailable chemical mineral kingdom that exists here. So when we combine these different cell salts, they make up different environments, different foods. They have different reactions in the human body, and they're very much mirroring the time, the season that they are released. So, for instance, we're going to jump down to this as I've labeled all the cell salts with the zodiac sign they're affiliated with. Cancer is ruled by calcium fluoride. Leo is ruled by magnesium phosphate. Virgo, potassium sulfate, and so on and so forth. So let's say you are an Aries sun. Aries rules potassium phosphate. It's the springtime. It's busting through the cold with so much drive because it's a cardinal sign, and all of the cardinal signs rule action and drive and passion, almost an unstoppable force. So that is springtime. That is potassium phosphate. If you are a Aries sun, what happens is these 12, there are literally 12, and it's not a coincidence and it's not any of that. This is literally nature, and it's just been there the entire time. I really hope that this is easy to understand. The 12 cell salts are abundant in nature. There are many different ways, and I'll explain that at some point. But every food has some of these things in it, and that's why they made food lists for the cell salts, so that when you're deficient in one, you can eat those foods and replenish your deficiency. So we're in our mother's womb for a solid 9 months. That leaves 3 cell salts that we do not develop in our mother's womb. Every single person on the planet, unless they were actually gestating in their mother's womb for a whole 12 months, is deficient in 3 of these cell salts naturally. It's just natural how it worked out. An Aries sun would have not developed the amount of potassium phosphate as a Libra sun. A Libra sun has plenty of potassium phosphate because they were in the womb when that season, when that mineral was abundant, not only abundant in nature, but abundant. It's funny how the human body is in cue with nature, and that it likes to release things with the seasons. Not only likes to intake food of the seasons, but it likes to release things with the seasons. So someone not proficient in potassium phosphate, which rules the nervous system, which rules the head. Aries is the mind, the head, futuristic thinking. Anyway, so the sign that you're born in plus the 2 months after you're born. For Aries, that would be Taurus, Gemini. Okay, those 3 cell salts, that person would need to take in more of potassium phosphate, sodium sulfate, potassium chloride for these gaps in their chemical makeup to be filled, creating homeostasis in the body. All these systems can work cohesively when everyone has what they need. Does that make sense? So I'll run through these, which I haven't yet. Aries rules the nervous system, Taurus rules the lymphatic system, Gemini rules the immune system, Cancer is the muscular system, Leo is the cardiovascular system, Virgo is digestive, Libra is excretory, Scorpio reproductive, Sagittarius integumentary, that's just the skin, that's our epidermis, that's Sagittarius rules the hair, skin, eyes, and the hips. People with large hips, that's a Sagittarian trait. Capricorn rules our skeletal system, Aquarius is respiratory, and Pisces rules our endocrine system. The reason for this is because of the season that these minerals are happening, being released in nature. So I hope that makes sense. So we have the cell salts, which we need in our diet every day. And then we have the systems that they pretty much govern, because they all have different characteristics. And we just happen to have 12 systems in our body, just coincidentally, I guess. But there are 12 major systems, and each one is governed perfectly by the archetype zodiac that governs them. And this is because of planets as well. Each one of these zodiac is ruled and governed by different planets with different constitutions and characteristics that are very, very different. And that is what makes up these archetypes. Again, is just the different qualities in the planets and the cell salts of the seasons. This narrative is the only reason for astrology. Astrology is simply the narrative for the cell salts of the season and the systems of the human body. It's not because we are God, but it's not because we are almighty and we have created this in nature. We are experiencing this in nature because we are nature. We reflect nature just like nature reflects us. I know that sounds really far-fetched. I know that's super Aquarian and out there, but it's true. And the only reason we have this system for navigating our life is because we are trying to align with them, because they are aligned perfectly with nature. And as within, so without, as above, so below. So we are really just trying to get to know ourselves, and we're trying to understand the gaps we have that we're born with. We're trying to understand the, sometimes, what's the word? Phobias that don't have any viable reason. That's why it's a phobia. These things are for different reasons, and it's because of different aspects in your birth chart with different planets and different lineups going on for everybody, and it changes daily. The moon changes signs every 2 days, and the moon rules our mind. We think that we're going in this Groundhog Day, but actually this subtle shift going on in nature, in the planets, if we really were paying attention, we would see that when the moon was in Gemini for 2 days, we were talking a lot more, we were writing a lot more, we were going to more places out just to get something done. We were a lot more productive maybe. Then the next 2 days that the moon is in Cancer, we may be really more focused on our feelings, focused on our home, and depending on who is in your house of Cancer and what planets are in your house of Cancer, you are going to notice that you'll be drawn to those things when the moon is in Cancer. You'll want to take more baths, you'll want to pamper yourself. So if we really were, it's not a placebo thing either, because if you backtrack if you don't know what day it is or what moon is where, and you're just living your life, and you go however many days tracking just how you feel, you can actually go back and look to see what was happening in the planets, and you will see either the moon, the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, something was aspected that was completely aligning your timeline. This never, it always goes in a loop, Aries to Pisces, no matter what. Where is it? Aries to Pisces. So Aries just starts in different places in people's charts, but it is always first. It's always the first sign. And wherever Aries is in your chart, it's where you'll be headstrong. It's where you'll have a vision. You'll have ruthless creativity, drive. You will be very physically active. So Aries is in someone's chart, everyone's chart somewhere in one of their 12 houses. And it's a lot of fun because once you know where you are putting visionary manifestation energy of Aries, what house and what part of life that is going to manifest for you in. Maybe Aries is in your house of Libra. Maybe it's in its opposite sign. I know a few people with that, and it's very confusing for them because all of their signs are in opposite signs. Libra's in Aries and Capricorn's in Cancer, and their life is very much a switching of gender roles constantly, and it's very much navigating Libra energies with Aryan force, being very much like a warrior and being very almost like ruthless in relationships. So for someone with Aries in Libra in their 7th house, that's how that plays out because Aries is ruled with Mars. Okay, I've really gone on longer than I wanted, thought, or wished, but here we are. So we have traditional, we have the archetypes, 1st house to 12th house. We have what they rule based on our systems, our health systems. Also, Aries rules, let's call it red blood cell level. Red blood cells in general, nervous system, just basic life is Aries. White blood cells, that is lymphatic Taurian part. So this is really interesting that I recently realized that when Scorpios, opposite Taurus, are living in their shadow aspect, it's because they have a lot of lymph backed up. When they get feisty, over-controlling, manipulative, Scorpio is very much about control as well as corruption and managing corruption and control. So when Scorpio is living in its shadow of maybe being too controlling or too angry, too secretive, they have a real need to look to Taurus and to say, am I going upside down enough? Am I moving my lymph? Am I healthy? Because when lymph backs up, that's when our immunity goes. That's when we get muscle aches and lactic acid pain from working out. Lymph not moving directly affects Scorpio reproductive systems. Over time, if you are not moving lymph, which does not have a pump like our heart does, our heart works every day, day and night. It never stops because blood has to move. But our lymphatic system is entirely up to us. The health of it is entirely a choice. And the bull, the Taurian energy, does not like to move. It doesn't like to budge. It's very slow. It likes to process earthly things. And it's not that it's not brilliant. It's not that it's, Taurus is very much about rational thinking. It just, that's the point. It's taking a long time to rationalize and to process. They're a very slow sign. So that's very reflective of the lymphatic system. It really doesn't want to move unless you make it. And unless you make it, it won't create the abundance, the health that you're wanting. Because we all know that cancers of the reproductive system, breast cancer is huge, but ovarian cancers, infertile, there's like a huge trend now, like there's a lot of miscarriages happening and people not being fertile. So I'm not saying that these problems can simply vanish by moving your lymph. I'm saying that is a problem that has accumulated over time, and you're going to have to deaccumulate over time by moving your body, going upside down, jumping on the trampoline, rebounding. Taurus has to move lymph with movement. The only other option for this sign is to play an instrument. Taurus rules the mouth, and yeah, the circulation of air needs to go, but you know, woodwind instruments are great for the lymphatic still. I mean, it's not anything like exercising or going upside down, but it is something. So if you're having trouble with any of those things, yeah, rebounding on a trampoline, going upside down, doing yoga, downward dog, just making sure you're creating gravity for lymph to move around so that we can sustain immunity is the only point. So, wanted to make that visual for everyone to see. As far as COVID-19, I didn't really put this up there, and sorry, I'm gonna do it. COVID-19 really hit immunity, immune systems, respiratory system, as well as the I think that's it. Sorry. Okay. So COVID-19 was really harsh on the immune system and the respiratory system. As you can see, both of those systems are in blue under the pituitary system. In case you didn't watch my video on these two, I'll run through them really briefly. This is pretty much our brain's to-do list. We have pituitary, runs healing, it runs creativity, the right brain. It's our parasympathetic system of rest and digest, also known as tend and mend. This is where we sleep. This is where we gain from meditation. Pituitary is all about healing and expanding. So hormones are within this category of rest and digest. Having two of six in the same, category means that our capacity for healing since COVID-19 hit is it's very compromised. I got it. I know so many people that had to get this shot just because they don't have the immunity in the first place. But I noticed after I had COVID that it pretty much took all of my systems down like 10%. Like I was already battling a few things, but once I went through COVID, it's like everything got a little weaker, even though I was taking all this time to recuperate. It just like this whole system, and to be fair, like my lymphatic system isn't that great. I haven't been moving as much as I used to when I lived in Hawaii, when I was doing yoga teacher trainings. I was very active, but that was, right during COVID-19. And I have to say, like, I've noticed, talk about rebounding from things. I've noticed less capacity to rebound immune-wise since I had COVID. Anyway, so all of those systems are related to the pituitary system. It's also the feminine moon system. It runs on a 28-day system. It needs iodine to cleanse every 30 days or so. Like, it needs monthly maintenance. Whereas the pineal gland is a daily kind of part of our brain that is overactive, actually. It's the, you could call it the masculine part of our brain because it is the visionary. It's known as the great leader as opposed to the great healer. It processes our calculations, our strategies, left brain stuff. It's also our fight or flight system. It's, light sensitive, and it stimulates all of our nerves to start the day. And it also is based on our circadian rhythm. So we go through pineal gland healing whenever we go through like these visual healing ceremonies and experiences with, conscious altering drugs, and we get like a visual. That's the pineal gland working, because you see a photo and then you see a story, and that is literally the work of the pineal gland's vision, our third eye, our sixth sense. I should write that up there. It's our third eye and the sixth sense. Third eye. Yep. And it runs our digestive system, our nervous system, cardiovascular system. So as you can see, we have yin and yang, we have masculine, feminine, we have the grind, and then we have the repair. The pineal gland is very much in charge of, well, it needs electrolytes to replenish because it's running so hot for us all the time. It's taking in sensory information all the time, and it needs light to create melatonin so that we sleep. So you can't have one without the other, but we're just so you could say desensitized, but overstimulated from everything we experience with TV and, quite frankly, the world these days. And, it's just overstimulating. Whereas the pituitary system is also the parasympathetic. It's connected with our vagus nerve. It's connected with our heart and repair. This is where you get to see consciousness. How you feel about yourself and the world is governed by how healthy your hormones are and your pituitary system is. For example, Tony Robbins, it's been documented for so long. The reason Tony Robbins is the way he is because he has an overactive pituitary gland. He is very consciously aware of how to take care of his pineal gland. His pituitary has been completely developed since youth. It's the reason for his vitality and his bigness, because the endocrine system, the pituitary system, it runs the growth hormone. When we fast, when we're not digesting food, when we're not nervous, when we're not moving and going somewhere or getting rid of bile, when we're not doing any pineal gland things, when we're just healing, this is where you get to see growth. You get to see people fasting and regrowing their cells. This is regrowing your hair. This is the system that makes use of all the things you did digest to put into healing action. So when you haven't digested what you need, this whole system needs electrolytes. It needs vitamins B, A, C, because they all regulate a lot of action and protection from action. The pituitary system runs on, fats, E, D, K, sunshine. So once we have melatonin made from the pineal gland, we go to sleep, we mend and repair. And depending on how we're taking care of our pituitary system, it's what creates oxytocin. Oxytocin is the the love drug. It's known as the love drug, but it is the chemical that we excrete when we experience maternal closeness or physical, not physical, but social intimacy. Social intimacy and motherly instincts are oxytocin. So you can see why this is the feminine system as opposed to the pineal gland. It's, yeah, literally night and day. Autism is also one of the, ADD and ADHD as well. They're overstimulated pineal glands, and they're born that way. There's a lot of people these days born that way for a very certain reason, but for the most part, we're actually learning that people with overactive pineal glands, also known as autism, are very deficient in oxytocin, but by giving them oxytocin reduces the level of autism. So they really just were born with a hyperactive, that's a whole nother video. But the regulator between these two polar systems is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the master because when the sun comes up or when the light turns on, the hypothalamus sends a signal to the pineal gland that it's daytime, it's action time. And like I said, like people with Aries in their charts, like heavy Aries, really feel the pineal gland like burst of light in the morning, like they're ready to go, they're full of energy. Okay, so the hypothalamus sends the signal to the pineal gland, and the hypothalamus, its actual real big only job is to connect the nervous system that is masculine with our hormone system, the endocrine system, which is feminine. Hormones, our endocrine system that governs our hormones, it governs all health almost, because when hormones are out of balance, then the pineal gland is sending bad signals. When the pineal gland is sending bad signals, it's telling us to eat things that we don't really need. It tries to compensate and overcompensate for things that it's missing because hormones are so complex and vital. Both. They are, there's a reason people make and take them synthetically. They are so powerful, and we get them from good sleep, from meditation, from shutting down. This whole system can't run unless there is complete and total darkness. So if there's a clock in your bedroom, if there's a TV that's left on, if you have a light on in the street that's shining in your bedroom, it's sending a signal to your hypothalamus, which is actually activating your daytime brain. This is higher thinking for sure, but this is rational thinking. We get really carried away with all this sensory stimulus, and it's only when we're in total darkness or we're fasting or we are just being, this system gets to shine. When we don't do these things, that whole system just gets ignored and quite frankly can't replenish our day-to-day activities anymore. Does that make sense? I hope so. I feel like I've been talking forever. So that's our brain. Those are our systems. That's why our systems are the way they are. This is COVID-19, and this is the Aquarian age. Before I do the Aquarian age really quick, I want to talk about this bottom chart is also the universe's chart. I don't have a chart for the Earth. I seem to stumble upon information at the exact time I need it. So if anyone has a natal birth chart for the Earth, I would love it, because all I have is the traditional and the universal chart, the Aquarian age, and of course like personal charts, the United States and these places. I have all that. I just don't have the actual Earth's chart. That would be really valuable. But this is the universe Milky Way's chart. There's a whole philosophical reason for why this is exactly the way it is. And actually, it's not perfect. So like the universe's chart is actually, this first house is mostly Cancerian, but there's a little Leo in there, just a little bit. And it's the same with the 12th house. This is mostly Gemini, but there's a little bit of Cancer in there. So that may not seem like a important detail, but as I talk about it, you'll see why we have to include little nuances like that. This is the universe's chart. This represents our population. So how do I put this simply? When you think of a crab, which is Cancer, Cancer is the crab, you think of a species that can completely protect itself. It lives by water. It's connected to water. Our bodies are like 80% water. Just want to keep the facts together. The fact that our first house in this universe is Cancerian means that we're born from a mother. Like, this is why women give birth and not men. It's just the way the cards landed in this realm. So Cancer being our first house, it not only rules where we come from, it rules our physical attributes as well as how we think emotionally and how we think logistically. All of the themes and the characteristics of that very practical yet sensitive sign is so the human race. So we have this epidermis basically that keeps us from everything outside of us. If our skin was, inverted inside out, all the dust and all the dust and dirt and things of the outside world would easily, completely ruin the experience of being. But because we have this outer, I'm not going to call it a shell, because we have this outer protective layer that is very elastic, calcium fluoride rules elasticity. It actually is what we make Teflon with, and it insulates any kind of space exploration. It is calcium fluoride, which I think is so poetic. So this protective outer layer, Cancerian archetypes they're governed by the moon and water, so they're very fair complected. Anything that's moon related is more like pale and lighter toned and fair. Scandinavian bloodlines are very much like, there's a lot of Cancerian in Scandinavian bloodlines. They're very blonde, blue-eyed. That's very Cancerian. So there are different levels of melanin and everything, but for the most part, that first house being that Cancerian, it generally means lighter skin, and it's not only lighter skin, it's the susceptibility to the sun. Because the crab, it needs the sun because the sun gives life, but it's ruled with the moon, and it doesn't require like actual, how do I say this? It needs protection from the sun, it needs protection from water, and it does both those things for itself. If the crab were just to live above the surface, it would, roast. It would have to adapt basically to the sun. It goes and burrows into its safety when it is high tide. And that is exactly what we do. We come from our mother. We go where it's safe when we need to. We have a protective outer layer, and also crabs have arms and legs. Just gonna throw that out there. So there's a lot
but obviously I can't get through it all. Also in the universe, Leo and Taurus are together. So usually the second house, abundance, earthiness, what we value, what is valuable to us, usually that is Taurian, and that is the bull. In the universe's chart, this is ruled with Leo. So this is also why we think gold, well, no, not even why we think. This is why gold is so valuable in this universe. Um, the minerals within gold are so abundant, it can actually, like, I'm pretty sure gold, even though it's not as conductive as silver, there's something about it that like sustains life, or like sustains a certain kind of frequency that's healing. And I mean, if Scorpio is death and rebirth, its opposite Taurus is like this little baby bull that's so full of life, and it has a whole farm, and it's just like, or field, it's just like, it has everything it could need, and it's beautiful. It's ruled with Venus. When we put Venus and Leo together, um, yeah, this is where Leo also rules family. That's one I forgot. Leo rules family, and we value family in this universe. It is a huge part of all lesson learning is family and creativity. Learning how to harness creativity for abundance is a theme in this universe. So Leo Taurus in the second house, just kind of, I mean, we value children, we value creativity, we value the theater, entertainment. Like, these are things that they are fundamental to our human experience. And before there was television and this entertainment with like TV and Hollywood stars, that's very Leo, like before that there was radio stars, there was singers, and Taurus rules singing, famous singers. Leo is fame. There's so, like, the themes with all of these houses are endless. It's where all poetry comes from. It's where all, like, not innuendos, what's the word I'm looking for? It's where all like philosophy comes from, is from the universe's chart and how it's lined up together with the original manifestation of the spiral. This is the original manifestation of the spiral. And this is how that spiral is manifesting based on the energies that were very prominent when the universe was created, however long ago. The reason someone can figure this out is because the archetypes are so specific and polarized. There's no there are a few archetypes that have some similarities, but for the most part, these 12 are very polar dynamic for broad reasons. It covers broad sequences. So I'll just stop babbling and move on. Virgo is ruled by Gemini. That's another thing I forgot to mention, is that, oh man, because these cardinal signs are Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer. Cardinal signs, like I said, full force. You can't stop them. They are a force of nature. There's cardinal earth, water, air, and fire. So in the universe's chart, thankfully, I think it's a blessing that all the cardinal signs ended up in other cardinal signs. When cardinal signs end up in fixed signs or muted signs, not always, but we would see a lot more themes with, I know we already do, but we would see a lot more themes with addiction. And as a human race and as like a consciousness collective, like, we would see a lot more selfishness, self-servingness. We would see a lot more addiction and a lot more like tunnel vision, because the fixed signs are fixed for a reason. Like, you can't stray them from their path. Whether their path is destructive or constructive, you cannot stop the fixed path. And the muted signs are very disease prone. They kind of like to like go under the radar. And those signs are Pisces, Virgo, Scorpio, Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini. Those signs like to fly under the radar. When a cardinal sign is with a muted sign, it's like the cardinal sign got a lobotomy and it's still doing what its physical characteristics do, but it's like its brain is swapped with someone who is a lot more passive, someone who's a lot more the muted signs are more for lack of a better word, feminine, because they are more they're prone to wanting diversity. They're not so much fixed or cardinal. They kind of like to experiment. They kind of like to play. They don't like to be too serious or too anything. They're muted because they like to flow. And to flow, you gotta be, low key sometimes. So it's a blessing that this kind of manifested the way it did. We have a muted Virgo with muted Gemini. So getting on to what I was saying, usually the third house is ruled by Gemini, the immune system, communication, words. Within the 3D realm of our universe, Virgo is in the third house of Gemini. So it's awesome because they're both muted signs. They're both ruled by Mercury and attention to detail. So Virgo can be like annoyingly analytical. It's kind of, they don't necessarily like judge or condemn like Libra or Scorpio, but Virgo likes to take everything apart and make sure everything has integrity, everything is pure, and then put it all back together again. So there's a lot of analytical energy in Virgo, but because it's also making energy with Gemini, there is a huge capacity for information, misinformation within, it's like gossip too. Gossip, misinformation. When you go on like a radio station and they're interviewing someone and they're just kind of tearing them apart and like why did you get a divorce and why did you why am I talking to you about all these really personal things that I'm just like dissecting for all these people to listen to. That's very much the manifestation of Virgo Gemini in this realm. So strangers, siblings, distant relatives kind of like inquiring about like what you do every day. That's a kind of like, we can laugh about it, but that's a theme. That's like the analytical Virgo with the talk like parrot energy Gemini, where it just wants to relay information and intake new information. Like that's all it wants to do. Oh, and I guess if you're familiar with the nodes of the moon, Rahu and Ketu, Gemini and Rahu are best friends. So that Rahu dragon's head that just likes to consume, it's ruled with Gemini. It's exalted in Gemini. So that is you can imagine a dragon head with only the agenda to consume is within the archetype of Gemini, the twins of balance, wanting to know this side and that side. It wants to know both sides. It wants to hear both sides. It wants to hear both sides of the coin. And then it's going to relay based on, its own agenda. It's not really trying to help anyone. It's not really trying. This house in the universe's chart is really a reflective mirror, because Gemini, when they are triggering for us, that's a mirror we're looking at, and they are just as much trying to find balance within that as the person receiving that Gemini energy. So it's very like wishy-washy back and forth, but it's only to spread and empower with information. Very quick. Both signs are very quick and very analytical. Fourth house for the universe, Libra. Balance is the archetype for Libra. Libra rules justice, homeostasis, complete balance, complete equilibrium, walking the two walking the path in between the two, you know, finding that middle road is Libra. This also, like I said, being that place where we retreat in our life opposite our career. This is why, again, the mother archetype is the way it is, because Libra is ruled by Venus, beauty, but it also rules fairness and justice between two forces. So beautiful. You almost wonder if like this was all on purpose, because as you continue through and you see all the houses interacting with each other and the archetypes, you just see how it just works so beautifully and it creates so much wonder. But this is where the archetype of the mother really comes from. It's from this strong, peaceful. Libra is all about finding and kind of establishing some kind of peace. It's very political. So when the home gets political, we really look to, you know, equilibrium, justice. Like I said, there's a lot of healing happening in the Cancer Capricorn axis within humanity. So the fact that this is justice and, you know, force of action, this is where we get all of the, what we envision a perfect mother to be. Beautiful, fair, just, blah, blah, blah. That's Libra in Cancer. It is beautiful. I'm just can't believe this video has gone on this long. Another pivotal house that is endless, so endless in its wisdom and its philosophy, is the 5th house, which is normally Leo, the ego, fame, family, notoriety, creativity, colorfulness. It's also the inner child. It represents children. The first child born is represented in the 5th house. So in the universe, it holds a Scorpio energy. Scorpio is the darkness, the blackness. There's no light. It's ruled by Pluto and Mars. It's a warrior. It's a bat. You know, Scorpio, it lives in the darkness. And Leo is the heart. It is the sun. It is the shining light on the stage. So the fact that our sun sits in total blackness and shines through all death and destruction and rebirth, every day the sun shines. And I mean, when our family passes away, this house is ruled by family, and Scorpio rules death. When we lose family members, this house, because we value family here in Taurus, and then we lose family here in Scorpio, this is where a lot of great art comes from. This is where a lot of great, I don't want to call it entertainment, but great work, great creative work comes from huge loss of things we love. It's so sad, but it's just how it works. We change the most. We transform. Pluto, Scorpio, transformation. We transform the most when we lose things that hold dear to our heart. The 5th house is all about the heart and what the heart needs to thrive. So this is very poetic, because when we lose something that is dear to our heart, we search for a way to heal. That's usually doing something, either going out and seeing people that we enjoy spending time with. You know, a lot of people don't like to have funerals in the traditional sense. A lot of people like to have parties for their funeral, you know, like Leo rules parties and Scorpio rules death. So like, the point is that we get together when things end, and we get together with family when things end, and we look for outlets and creative things outside of our home and outside of us when we lose something. This is such a cool house, and it just has so much in it with Scorpio and Leo. This is also why the scorpion is very much like a lion. If you think about a scorpion, it is completely able to defend itself. It does not need anything to defend itself, because it has that lion quality from incarnating in the 5th house. So
It's another reason why lions, they are large felines. A bull is large. There is abundance in the second house. So when a small feline is kind of integrating into manifesting itself within the second house, what we value, that big Taurian abundant energy, we get a big cat, we get a big feline. So I guess that's why we have lions. But what I'm saying is that the attributes of the house are also attributes of the thing that has manifested in that house. So that is why Scorpios are very malicious when they have to defend themselves. They're very territorial, like a lion. So you can see how these things kind of like everything is playing off of everything else. It's really fun. And this is just basic. When you actually combine more than one, or when there's 3 houses combining together, for instance, we're going to combine these 3 together, then you get a lot more variance in what comes, like what is born. So when you just have something by itself, you get to see the basic pattern. When you combine 2 together, you get to see, you know, how things manifest together. And when you get to see 3 things together, you start to see a play happening. You have a person, a place, and a thing all interacting, and you get to see a lot more variances. So I think I need to I'll keep going. Just, if this is long, it's long, and you can fast forward, it's fine. This will probably be 2 hours. Sagittarius falls into the 6th house of what is Virgo usually. It rules inconveniences, it rules anything that needs like daily tedious attention is Virgo. But since Sagittarius, wisdom is here, basically is not good, because wisdom being here and silicon dioxide, which is the mineral, the cell salt that rules Sagittarius, for that to be in the 6th house means that it's on a downslope, where our ascendant, our rising sign is here because it is rising, and where our descendant is, our 6th house, that is where we are descending. It's where everything kind of feels like it never ends. It's an uphill battle. There's a lot of tedious, meticulous energy with Virgo. So when we're searching for wisdom in our day-to-day, at work, you know, when we're trying to find meaning for things in our routine, Virgo rules routine and day-to-day activities, work. When wisdom is here, it means that we are striving. We're like looking for it. We're making effort, but we can't find it. Like Virgo is like a mouse, or like a person just searching around for something, can't find something, you know, that's like a shadow version of Virgo. And for wisdom and higher knowledge and higher knowing and oneness and being, oneness is more Pisces, but Sagittarius is on a search for oneness. It's on a search, a quest for more knowledge, because there is more meaning past what it can see. The theme for Sagittarius is I see. It rules the eyes and the health of our eyes. So when we sit in front of a computer at our job, at our desk job every day, when we're commuting, when we're, you know, agitated, these things burn up silicon dioxide. Stress, you know, deadlines. What else is like a tedious work daily routine? Like for some people that have Aries here, it's like they want to work out, they like get all their stuff on to work out, but if it's in the 6th house, it's like I can't get to the gym, or like I can't make myself get outside to actually go on a run. So for Sagittarius and wisdom to be here, it's like we really want it. We want enlightenment. We want to meditate. We want to not be stressed. We're looking for it and we can't see it. It's
literally I see is the theme, and for it to be in the house of descendant means I cannot see. I can't see the answer. I can't see the problem. I can't see, you know, it's what is ignorance? Ignorance is being blind to the wisdom in the everyday. So that's a whole thing. I probably will make a whole separate video on Sagittarius in the 6th house, because as far as humanity goes, that's really pivotal, super pivotal. I'll move on though really quick. Capricorn, the father, is in the 7th house with Libra, which so fitting, because I mean, you could say that once people get married, once people fulfill a contract, people look at them with the dignity of completing something. Anything completing, initiating, anything to gain maturity, to gain that, because Capricorn rules, it's ruled by Saturn, it's ruled by long, hard lessons, doing things the right way, you know, instead of the quick way. So once we initiate, you know, these commitments, 7th house is commitments by law, commitments by, you know, spirit. When we commit to things, we start to activate our Capricorn 10th house energy, which isn't quite our destiny, but it's definitely how people remember us when we die. The 10th house, the career house, Capricorn, the midheaven, it is called the midheaven because it is what we are remembered for. The 11th house rules destiny and events and networking, serendipity, but Capricorn rules accomplishment, what I left behind. It's a legacy house. So it's also the father. It's where men are initiated into fatherhood when they get married. So the marriage house has Capricorn in there. That's huge. Its theme is I use or I utilize, because the goat with no legs has to use everything around it as a resource to get to the top of the mountain. It has to, everything is useful when you don't have much, right? Capricorn is a very depressing sign. Sagittarius is very joyful. It goes on the long adventure for victory. But it sits in between Scorpio and Capricorn, which are the two most depressing signs in astrology. Scorpio rules death, Capricorn rules neglect. The reason Capricorn rules neglect is because it's opposite Cancer, hygiene, self-care, self-love. Capricorn is focused, it's career-oriented, and it isn't focused on self-love. So that's a whole house telling of itself. Aquarius, which is really interesting. It's a sign ruled by Uranus. Uranus is a planet that likes to spin on its side. It's the one planet that isn't like any other planet. It's completely original and it completely does a separate thing. It's unique. So that is why Aquarius rules uniqueness. It rules utopian, because only when we change, only when we arrive to the people, places, and things we're meant to arrive with, we meet destiny, so on and so forth. Friendships. Uranus also is a very windy planet. It has extremely high winds. So anything with Aquarius in it is going to have really quick changes, really quick changes. Like it was there and then it was gone. It like they were there and then they died. Like, and to continue on the theme, Scorpio, which is death, is usually the 8th house ruler, and Aquarius is here, the 8th house. So this is why death is so quick. You know, God-giving. Everything depends, but the act of dying, the act of being reborn is a very much slap in the face process where like things just change at the snap of a finger, and then everything after that is never the same. Okay, so that is Aquarius with Scorpio in the house of death. Pisces, so usually this is where we meet Sagittarius and wisdom and higher learning. And for Pisces to be here, Pisces is the Christ energy of complete compassion, unconditional love, peace. Like Libra searches for peace, but Pisces is peace. Pisces is pure, unconditional love. To get to that unconditional love, it has to go through the whole ocean. It has to go through there's this theme with Pisces in that they don't really filter out anything, because the ocean contains everything, right? Like all are welcome here. That is the Christ energy. All are welcome here. Non-discriminatory, non-judgmental. That is completely Pisces. So for it to be with Sagittarius, Sagittarius seeking wisdom, Pisces being wisdom, means that to find the wisdom we seek, we literally have to go far. Ninth house can rule meditation as well for this very reason. Pisces and Sagittarius are similar because they are manifesting 3D life in the same kind of trajectory, like on a mission, through isolation, through the solo journey, Han Solo, iron phosphate rules oxygenation and groundedness. So when we are losing ourselves in our routine and meticulous life in the 3D realm here, we go through a higher learning passage to find that grounding, purifying, circulating peace that we just are thirsty for. And yes, after someone dies, 8th house Aquarius, very quickly we look to the cosmos, we look to our inner wisdom. Man, I love Sagittarius, and I love that Pisces is with Sagittarius in the 9th house, because it is all about joy, and Pisces is all about unconditional love. This is also why unconditional love is all healing, because iron phosphate, anyone that's anemic, or there's so many reasons why people can lose blood, but for anyone that has low iron knows that it is a completely debilitating circumstance where you don't have the cognition and the energy to even forget wisdom. You're just trying to survive. So this very pivotal cell salt, being with higher wisdom, means that when we do ayahuasca, these plants, when we do mushrooms, ayahuasca, let's see, what's another one? These plants are really, really high in iron and vitamin C. When we mega dose on iron with cacao, with ayahuasca, or just, with iron in general, you need iron and vitamin C to go together to absorb each other. But when you're either deficient or not getting enough iron, everything suffers. Your hormones suffer because you're in survival mode. You're stressed out, you're not grounded, you're, hyper analytical is a very good word for not being grounded with enough iron. The reason mushrooms are so healing, they have a lot of silicon dioxide, which actually absorbs decay. So when we have Pisces, iron phosphate, with Silica Sagittarius, silica being non-rotting, absorbing decay, and its food is ammonia and toxicity, which is great. there's something in the universe that feeds off of toxicity, and it's silica. It's this mineral that's associated with higher wisdom, and it's really abundant in plants. So when we combine silica and iron phosphate, we actually create new cells in our body. We create purification. You know, like, you're clearing things out with silica, excuse me, and then you are circulating it through your body with iron phosphate, Pisces. Pisces also rules the feet, the 2 fish, the 2 feet of emotion, how we feel. So when we have cold feet, when our fish aren't oxygenated, when the lower half of us isn't getting enough blood, then yeah, a whole bunch of emotional problems, physical problems, and I can attest to the mental fogginess. I am very anemic. So I love that those are together, and I'll probably do a video on those as well. Aries in the 10th house, which is usually Capricorn. This is where we get the I am mantra. I am great. I am powerful. These are all positive affirmations for people wanting to be self-sufficient. Capricorn rules reinvention and being self-sufficient and, you know, completely responsible for yourself. It's funny because Aries is the baby. It's the first sign of the zodiac. So that is why Aries is the emperor. It's the child born into legacy. How they treat that legacy and how they act and react in it is based on their chart. But this is where we get the CEO vibe. The CEO vibe is Capricorn Aries. It's also like presidential. Aries, I am cardinal, I am fire, I am action. Capricorn, I get to the top, I reinvent myself to succeed. It's very much entrepreneurial energy, but it governs systems and structure and patience and dedication. Just sacrificing everything to succeed is Capricorn. So for that to be with Aries, cardinal fire in the 10th house means that this is where a lot of us feel like we get validated. Our life gets validated because we associate our I am with our career, what we do. That's been a trend, at least in the 20th century, is that we are only as good as our career. We are only as good as our assets. That's where that little slice of our life comes from. Taurus is with Aquarius. Usually the 11th house, networking, internet, is Aquarius, fixed air. But here we have Taurus, the bull, abundance. This is why the internet has abundant information. This is why computers are gaining more. So Venus rules aesthetics and the economy. Taurus is both of those. So technologically, things are getting more aesthetically pleasing the more that technology advances. So we get like a technological advancement because Taurus is power and Aquarius is the internet, modern, futuristic inventions. So inventions, networking, power, abundance, you can see how those two together, yeah, they're why the internet is so vast and huge, and it connects everybody at the same time. You know, it's relentless energy. The Aquarian energy is air, and it just blows. It just keeps moving. This is also the 11th house. It's if you like numerology, then you'll understand that there is a mirroring aspect in Aquarius as well. It's fitting because it's opposite the ego, but when we put our focus into Aquarius, we're met with feedback. People on the internet giving feedback, commenting. Like I said, Aquarius is detached from big emotion, but this is where we get to see kind of the projection of humanity, like how people are projecting their own egos onto the world. Trolls on the internet, that is very much this energy of Taurus with Aquarius. Because we really do value what people think of us, don't we? Until we learn not to. So that is the lesson of the 11th house. But because Taurus is there manifesting with Aquarius, it means that there is a lot of power in this Aquarian age. Power can work with you or against you. It's how you are operating with that power. So this is going to be really strong. This next 2,000 years are going to be huge. Not only 2,000 years or 1,000 years, the next 500, 150 years are going to be huge. Like Aquarius, like I said, it's ruled by Uranus and it moves quick. So before we know it, we're going to have these new technological advances. They're going to be very sexy. They're going to be very aesthetically pleasing. We're going to be drawn to them because we value them. So that's the 11th house having Taurus in it. It's very much like gaining power, quick changes. But because Taurus is such dense earth and Aquarius is such fast movement, there were, you could say, like the past 50 years, you could say that, or maybe not 50, 100 years, or even before that, you could say that things were moving at a rather slow pace technologically, because once the bull decides to move, then the action starts. So it depends on a lot of things, but you can see technological societies to either gain momentum quickly or to be delayed and to have setbacks based on, resources. Taurus, the earth sign, rules earth resources. So advancement being available only when there's resources available. That's very much the 11th house having Taurus. Okay, moving on to my favorite part. 12th house is Gemini. Usually, like I said, Gemini is ruled by the very lustful, Gemini is the lovers, literally, but the very lustful, consuming Rahu, the dragon's head that is all consuming. It is opposite Ketu, the dragon's tail. The dragon's tail is not identifying with an ego, a self, or consumption. It's more about detachment and from purifying itself from non-attachment. So the dragon's head is Gemini, and it being in the house of the subconscious, the cosmos, grand scale ideas, thinking, the oldest, wisest sign. Gemini rules duality. Gemini rules, it's ruled by Mercury, which is words and talking, information. The thing about it is that Gemini, ruled by Mercury, is debilitated in Pisces. So Mercury is debilitated in water, Pisces, the ocean. This is an awesome clue as to why fish don't speak in the oceans. Fish are mute within the waters, schools of fish. It's literally Gemini, but it being in Pisces, being debilitated in water. This is why we don't communicate with aspects of the cosmos like the ocean, like vast space, things that live in vast space, we don't have communication with them. Even if the fish are speaking their own fishy dialect, it's like Mercury is debilitated. We can't understand. When the planet of communication and words and speaking and relaying an idea is debilitated, it means that we're in a huge game of charades. So Gemini's duality, it's talking, it's muted in Pisces, the subconscious. This is also why our thoughts are muted inside our subconscious mind, and we don't, some of us do think out loud. I think out loud all the time, but it's why our thoughts are muted. The two hemispheres of our brain that create our conscious and our subconscious, the duality of that system is Gemini, the duality twins in Pisces, the cosmos, the subconscious. You know, Pisces also rules any kind of like prison, anywhere that you are in isolation by yourself for an unknown period of time is Piscean, because it's the last sign. Time is irrelevant at this point. When you get to Pisces, time is completely irrelevant, and it is all about being the small oneness alone in the bigness, like the biggest bigness you can think of. So prisons are ruled by Pisces. Any kind of place where you go for deep thought, like deep thought. Nature can have it does have a lot of Piscean attributes. Anything in the cosmos has Piscean attributes. What else? Duality. So Gemini rules information, and being somewhere with no horizon line, like being somewhere that goes on as far as your eye can see, and being there for an unknown amount of time, it not only mutes one's ability to express oneself. Lost my train of thought there. Yes, the reflective part of ourselves. When Mercury is debilitated, we're somewhere for a duration of time, we go back and forth with ourselves about everything. This is where we get the energy of being reflective with nature, reflective with the cosmos. There's a lot of debate whether God is a man or a woman, and Gemini is neither. It's both. It's the hermaphrodite, it's the gender neutral androgynous sign. It's the very feminine male and the very masculine female, and vice versa. So there's a gender, there's no gender specifically, and there's no amount of time that you can perceive, and the space that you're also trying to conceive is inconceivable. So isn't that beautiful how Gemini, this sign of gathering, things just outside of yourself to connect with the larger part of us. There's just so much poetry, wisdom in this universal chart. So once you know your sun sign, the month you were born, the sign you're affiliated with, and then you know the 3 months that you're deficient, that's a really good starting place to find homeostasis within yourself. You can see based on these charts what cell salts are, associated with what system, and you can tell based on your history and just your day-to-day, if this is ringing true for you or not. Personally,
what we digest influences our hormones. Basically, our nervous energy deciphers our pH level. And we're all either
RH negative or RH positive. And that's another thing too, but that deciphers the red blood cell count. That's governed by our nervous system,
which affects our excretory system. You know, cardiovascular system is influenced by the respiratory system. And this is a really unique dynamic here, is the third house with the ninth house
in our life. What we get
from nature.
This is kind of like the whole reason I'm making this video. I'm almost 2 hours in. But this is the reason, is the ninth house being associated with long distance travel, wisdom, being, content, joy, just in being. Opposite that, Gemini, information, male, radio waves. So what we get from nature is this impact of ionization. And what ionization is when we are too electrically conductive with air and fire, gas and nitrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. These are very masculine, pineal gland, chemicals. So when we're too electropositive, we're too fiery, we're too airy, we get these positive ions. They're like highly electrically conductive, and we get them from radio waves, tech waves, pollution, microwaves, our cell phones, our computers, our TV, anything that radiates a frequency technologically kind of like exacerbates this process of being too electropositive or having too many positive ions. It's kind of tricky because you think positive, you think good, but in this case, to be too electropositive is toxic. It's what accumulates toxicity because there is no filtration system. It's just simply attracting things to itself and accumulating them. And things are stagnant and just kind of vibrating. So when we lose a positive ion, we become negatively charged, electronegative, and healthy people are electronegative. So electronegativity is when we lose that highly fiery, highly oxygenated element, ion, and we start to ground. We do this with hygiene, when we take showers, when we take baths, any kind of high wind that is moving and therefore impacting these ions and losing the positive ions. This impact from waterfalls, wind, all of nature pretty much, high mountains, dense forests, anywhere that water and carbon are really cycling out a lot of that highly electromagnetic or highly electric energy is where we find health. And so we get all these pollution, tech toxicity elements from our daily life, from the third house, from Gemini, from commuting, from going to these places, or connecting in these very short distance ways with our day. This is where our immune system gets impacted. The third house, Gemini. Third house is where we get all of this. The ninth house, where we disconnect from the day, first of all, our identity, second of all, we disconnect and we go for wisdom. We go outside of ourselves, a distance from our day to day. It's a distance for the ninth house to find new healing, new health, new abundance, new, because once things die in Scorpio and are reborn, you know, there's all this joy that things are happening again, but it's because we have decided to go further. We have decided to look further for joy. That is nature. That is the ninth house. That is being with your maker because you have met him in Scorpio. In Scorpio, you are met with darkness and inner transformation. And in Sagittarius, you are faced with your being, your ego, your creator, everything. And you ground in joy. This is how we find health. So the next time people start talking about these negative ions, ionization, these ionized minerals that people are trying to get in their water, all of this feeds the pituitary, lymphatic, hormone system, our reproductive, skin system, respiratory, immune system, all those things, this whole system to heal and mend and to tend to our needs that we deplete on our day-to-day comes from being connected with nature, the ninth house, with silicon dioxide. Silicon dioxide is non-rotting and it's its own photosynthesis cycle. It actually recycles toxicity, it eats them, and then it recycles itself. It doesn't decay like carbon. The thing about it is that carbon and silica are right next to each other in the periodic table. They're very, very similar in atomic weight and in characteristics. The only difference is, majorly, is that carbon decays. Carbon is earth, it's solidity, but it needs to move, it needs to be replenished and kept healthy. Otherwise it decays. And silica, our wisdom, and our homeostasis for detoxing from these pollution and radiation waves, it comes from silica. Being able to recycle things at a cellular level and to keep using them as fuel. So silica is kind of like the eco fuel, whereas carbon is like what we use for our pineal gland to function properly. The pineal gland is completely made of carbon. The carbon element is it's lucrative, but the integrity of carbon, what kind of metals, what kind of minerals, how ionized is it, how healthy is the carbon, that is the question. We absolutely need carbon, but we need quality carbon. Otherwise, we face decay a lot quicker, unless we're taking in a lot of silica, unless we're taking in a lot of iron phosphate, unless we're taking in a lot of magnesium phosphate. Magnesium phosphate and iron phosphate create the lodestone. The lodestone is also called the I can't even say it, philosopher's stone, because when you have enough magnesium phosphate, which rules the heart, circulation, and you have enough groundedness, iron phosphate, Pisces, circulation, purification, you become a superhuman. The rest of you has to equalize. There has to be equilibrium within all of the other cell salts. But when that is the case and you have a good set of iron and magnesium phosphate, this is where people really start becoming superhuman, because their pineal gland is extremely healthy and so is their pituitary system. It's like they're teenagers again. So we have to have silica, we have to have magnesium phosphate, we have to have iron phosphate for power. For healing, we need all of the sulfates. We need what would originally be Virgo, Taurus, and Scorpio. Those are calcium sulfate, potassium sulfate, sodium sulfate. So we need sulfates, silica, and there's one other one that we need for the pituitary system. All of these, this healthy pituitary system, which needs D3, E, and K, creates melanin. So we created melatonin here by getting sunlight for the pineal gland, our third eye and our sixth sense. We get the melatonin, we go into complete darkness, and we start healing, and we start producing melanin. Melanin comes in 3 different types. 3 different types of melanin are in the skin, the brain, and different organs for protection. Eumelanin is mostly what you see in African American cultures and dark complected cultures, Asian cultures. The pheomelanin, let's see if I get this right. It's the pheomelanin is more of the yellow to reddish brown, Celtic, Scottish, freckle face. Like this is people with dominant pheomelanin. It's not as protective as eumelanin. So we could say eumelanin is what protects us the best from the sun. Pheomelanin is what protects our body, freckles. People with pheomelanin, redheads and fair complected blondes, they are not as protected from the sun. They have sporadic melanin throughout their body and their skin. Eumelanin is definitely more of the African American. They have so much melanin throughout their body, but the high amount of eumelanin on their skin is definitely by far the most protective. And then we have uromelanin, which is in everybody's brain, and it is what protects not only the brain, but these different melanins protect these vital organs that go through a lot of acidity, they go through a lot of inflammation, a lot of stress. Melanin is the protection from inflammation and oxidization. So melanin is trying to protect its earth. It's trying to protect, I can't even do it. Its body's earth and water from the pineal and the everyday's fire and air. Melanin protects us from different kinds of fire and air, oxidization and inflammation. When we don't have enough melanin in our skin, in our brain, in our body, when our pituitary system hasn't been functioning to produce melanin, to sustain our melanin, it is different for every person everywhere, but the general consensus is that, you can use up this protective element. You cannot replenish it. You can burn it up and not replenish it. We have to get oxytocin and melanin from this feminine pituitary healer system. So that again comes from darkness, complete darkness. It comes from fasting. It comes from light exercise, getting massages. This skin system, this integumentary system holds on to a lot of things. So does the so does the reproductive system. I guess the respiratory might. I don't think so. The lymphatic, skin system, reproductive system, they hold on to excess way more than any of these systems do. So this is also why we have to heal, because the system that heals is also the system that holds on. So if we're not healing, we're holding on. If we're holding on, we're dying. So melanin protects us. We have to continue to keep our melanin sustainable. And we do that with D3, E, K, like I said, ionic minerals, anything to do with nature in your diet, within your day, grounding, all of it is completely vital for this system to heal us. It's also it's where we get a lot of like our imagination, our consciousness. Getting to have fun is very connected with our right brain, our immune system. It's, all these things play off of each other. They just need to be in balance. So we have oxytocin, we have melanin, we're getting our melatonin from the D3 during the day. All is well. We are familiar with all of our solid, liquid, gas. The reason plasma is here is because it is the fourth element that no one ever talks about, because it's on the descendant. Plasma is silica. It's a lot of things, but one of the most vital elements of plasma is silica. This colorless, tasteless, odorless, non-rotting juice of life in the universe is silica. So, people without plasma, people that have lost a lot of blood, people that can't make blood as quick, as fast, as well, they have lower plasma as well. When we don't have plasma, when we're low on plasma, this is where all disease gets malignant. Not just cancer, not just any condition, like anything you're going through requires plasma. Our vital chi, life force, Agni, Ojas, like there's so many words for what this is. It is consciousness. It's what makes us us. And when we don't have enough, based on number of reasons, is when our health really starts to plummet. I talk about this a lot, but I'll throw it in here too. In World War II, they used coconut water for blood transfusions when there wasn't any plasma or blood to transfuse. Coconut water is really similar to our blood, and it actually saved a lot of lives. So if you are low on red blood cells, if you're low on plasma for whatever reason, I know a lot of people donate plasma now for money. So if you've done that and you haven't replenished it, that's why maybe things are working out the way they are. The very last thing to talk about is the upcoming Aquarian age. I don't know, I think maybe I should wait for this. It's kind of a lot of information. But as you can see, I'll just go through it really, really briefly, is that Scorpio will rule the midheaven of the Aquarian age, which we don't have to worry about for a good 1,000 years. But definitely in the next 100, 200 years, we're going to see definite themes of this chart playing out. So this is how nature works. This is how, the universe is nature. This is how, nature unfolds. This is the Fibonacci sequence, the blueprint. This is really like the Milky Way's manifestations. Nature doesn't just exist in the Milky Way. There's more life and things out there. So this is nature unfolding in its wisdom in the most elegant, minimal way possible. And this is the manifestations that we're holding in our galaxy. Just ours, only ours. When other things line up differently in other houses, you get a different universe. So we're taking original philosophy, our Milky Way's philosophy, and the Aquarian age philosophy. So if you could imagine Scorpio, Aries, and Capricorn energies, darkness, neglect, trauma,
sacrifice, initiations, ruthlessness, war. Oh my gosh, Aries and Capricorn. That is the reason why world leaders initiate war, because Capricorn is the government and the president and systems with a tier system, and Aries is the warrior, literally, and it is governed by the general, Capricorn. So anytime Aries and Capricorn get together, or Mars get together, this is where you see abrasiveness, you see ruthlessness for sure, like desperately needing some peace, desperately needing some Libra, desperately needing some Cancerian self-love. Neither of those things are present in war. So if you just add Scorpio on top of that, it just intensifies everything to the max, because Scorpio is, it's not only control, it is complete mastery. It's also, I lost it. Mastery, control, extremities and intensity. Scorpio is anything intense. Anything intense is Scorpio. So there will be large losses in life. There will be large losses in governments. It almost looks like we'll all self-govern ourselves. There's this weird kind of looseness to, first of all, the first house is Aquarius, which is totally detached. During the age of Aquarius, the population of Earth will definitely go through this theme of emotional detachment, networking on such a large scale, such huge, everyone connected through the internet, more inventions like flying cars, like fast moving inventions, detached emotion. So that's the Aquarian theme. But you also have, Gemini, which is literally the lovers. It's, non-gender, it's non-binary, and it's in the house of love affairs. And then Leo is in the house of marriages. So Leo is usually the governor of love affairs. Gemini is literally the lovers. There's going to be a huge theme with people being non-committal, people having flings with each other. There's going to be a lot of major emotional detachment in the Aquarian age. It'll be very sterile, emotionally sterile environment. So from this emotionally sterile environment, we get, first of all, Pisces comes into the second house of values. To say that we value forgiveness, we value unconditional love, we value freedom, we value, Pisces rules to be completely non-discriminatory. So to try everything once is very Piscean. To try everything once is very Piscean. So to value experimentation, to value, saying you're sorry instead of asking for permission, that's very Piscean. And to value that, it really, like, the more I look at this chart, it just is like there's really not a lot of rules. There's really not a lot of regulation on an emotional scale like we had in the Piscean age, which was very much, associated with doctrines and philosophy and all things Piscean, institutions that had, subconscious effects on us, like the church. That's very Piscean. Whereas Aquarius is detached. There is almost an atheist kind of tone where they're more connected to technology and modern life more than the earth, more than entertainment, more than the heart. It's very much, this is an age of quick
changes, detached emotions, and quite frankly, physical deterioration. This is another huge reason I'm making this video, because if we start looking at this now, this can save us so much havoc later on. To have Cancer on the descendant on the Aquarian age is not only a metaphor, it's very literal. To not have emotional capacity in our day-to-day routine is Cancer in the 6th house. To have, like, there's going to be a huge detachment from our mother post-birth, where it is in value in the 1st and 4th house in nature and the universe. Cancer, the home, the mother, emotions, self-love, being in the house of inconveniences and just these nuances that are so tedious, that take daily repetition. It's not so much Saturn where it's this like 18 years of trial and error. It's like you work on it all day tediously and you get it done. Virgo gets it done. There's this emphasis on, you know, freedom, but also there's emphasis on what do I have? It's not how do I feel. There was more of that in the Piscean age of how do I feel. This, you know, and these ages, they go in reverse. So we learned about the last sign, the Piscean all forgiving energy, and then we're going into Aquarius, which is prior, which is before Pisces. It's detached emotionally, it's not peaceful, it's actually fucking chaotic, excuse my French, but that is exactly what we're going into, is this very chaotic survival of the fittest, emotionally fittest. It's not going to be a question of physical stamina, more or less. It's going to be a question of how the last decade or century of your family has reproduced its DNA, and if it's strong enough, emotionally intelligent enough, emotionally strong enough, spiritually strong enough to head into this Aquarian age that is about to be so abrupt and so different from what we were living in prior to these last 2,000 years. So the Aquarian age rules the respiratory, which is affected by our cardiovascular system. And this is a huge sign that there's going to be these flying cars, these inventions that make things really simple, automatic for us, that take no effort. Aquarius is Aquarius, and it moves so quick because everything is instant. Anything, like, it's a very 5D, psychic, telepathic, futuristic, you know, unapologetic. It's almost an emotionless. It's very friendly, but it's almost detached completely of any other kind of feeling. There's just a simplicity and an automatic tone to this whole age that will make us, quite frankly, kind of lazy. Laziness is ruled by Taurus, and that is where we retreat into in the 4th house in the Aquarian age. So things are just kind of like too easy for our own good. There's a trend of, like I said, health deteriorating, respiratory as well as cardiovascular on this axis. This axis of Cancer Capricorn is very malignant in this certain lineup, because self-love being on our descent, and you know, Capricorn, which is going to rule our subconscious, entrepreneurialism, duty, responsibility. It's gonna be just a very sterile time where we're not as connected with earth, we're not as connected with emotion, we're very detached from this Christ-like energy. Like, it's very atheist in tone.
So Cancer and a descendant, which is our physical well-being and ruled by Jupiter, Neptune, and the moon, things that expand and create illusion for us. There's going to be a lot of emotional disillusionment in this age. There's not going to be a lot of stability in relationships. There's not going to be a lot of stability in physical well-being. It's going to be survival of the fittest because it depends on the amount of self-love you've given yourself to sustain a hard journey. Capricorn is initiations, and it being in the 12th house of our mind, subconscious, sleep, means that we're heading into this time where we're going to be challenged so much mentally. Mentally, it's going to be a marathon for us every day, unless we embrace the Capricorn nature, which honestly, Saturn in Pisces is just like the worst. Because Pisces is never ending, and Saturn is long, hard lessons and initiations that really span over the course of 20 years. And that's just normal Saturn. So for Saturn to be in an infinite sign means that this Aquarian age is going to go by quick, but it's going to feel like forever because it's not going to have the luxuries, the comforts that we're used to, that we've had. And I'm telling you, like, emotional fitness is going to be pivotal in this time. Learning to be self-sufficient, growing your own food at home. To have Taurus in this 4th house, it really marks that we're going to have we're going to struggle finding peace with food. We're going to have to grow our food at home. We're going to have to eat things that we don't necessarily find comforting all the time. And when we do have things that are valuable or that are comforting, we will keep them at home. Like, that's very much 4th Taurus. Like, anything I value, anything I think is valuable, like, I am going to keep it safe in my home. That's that energy. There's a lot of scarcity with Scorpio in the midheaven, and a lot of greediness, gluttony. This axis of Scorpio Taurus, if it's in its shadow aspect, is very greedy and keeps things hidden for itself. That's very much what we see there with the coming times. So inflation is definitely going to be a trend. To actually have a physical home that is yours is going to be rare. People will definitely live more modest accommodations. They'll either live more in sync with nature because they have to, or they will live in big cities and it will kind of be like a hiatus of nature. There's going to be sacrifices in either, if you live in the suburb or if you live in a rural place during this time, it's going to bring about a lot of hardship, specifically with food and resources. And if you live in the city and you are connected with the modern age and you're glued in with, all of this radiation and whatnot, that's a sacrifice. Living in that capacity with such scarcity going on, we are going to have to rely on innovation, inventions. That's how much scarcity we're talking about when we look at this Aquarian age. It's very intense. For the 9th house to have Libra as well, just signifies more like things being impure, Scorpio, Virgo, things ending because they're not pure, things dying because they're not maintained with integrity, and then new liberation. This is almost like the spontaneous healing energy with peace and Libra. So people will have to go great distances, long travel, 9th house, Sagittarius. They will have to go great distance
to find the peace, the justice, the harmony they're looking for. Libra rules beautiful music. Libra and Scorpio both rule music, mastery, prodigies in music. So we will definitely have to search for Venus, search for love, search for beauty. We will be on a quest for peace and justice during this time. Man. And then, you know, higher wisdom being in the 11th house of utopia, of, you know, the next coming times. We're always getting ready for a new age, and we're always preparing for a new age. So we needed unconditional love for ourselves and our people, our modern man, to go in this Aquarian age, and we're gonna have to have a lot of detachment to go into the Capricorn age, because that'll be a doozy. But when we finally arrive in the Sagittarian age, there will be incredible, I mean, we're looking, that's 6,000 years down the road, but we're at that time, we're looking at huge regeneration of earth and abundance and well-being. But honestly, the next 4,000 years are going to be a suckfest downer. Like, they're gonna suck. The good news is that the beginning, the first 200 years of this Aquarian age has some benefits because it's still tied to Pisces for 200 years. There's this residue, this almost kind of lingering tone from the Piscean age still attached the first 200 years of the Aquarian age. So we might actually see, you know, our generation, our children, our children's children, and their children, they might actually see a time where there is huge peace, health, healing, utopian energy on earth, where we have actually woken up. All of these, you know, governments and systems that have oppressed and repressed us for 2,000 years die off and are, you know, established with a younger generation that's more open-minded and, you know, able to thrive, because these old ideas have died, and these old institutions that are all about control have died. So there is hope, you know, if we take care of ourselves and the planet right now. There is hope that at least our children, our children's children, and the next 7 generations can experience wealth and abundance that we've been dreaming of this whole time in the Piscean age. Like, we have the capacity now to make choices based on information that we have to actually set ourselves up to win in this coming age, not only for 200 years, not for 300 years, but for a long time, because Scorpio is mastery, Capricorn is reinvention, Cancer is self-love, and it is in the house of routine and day to day. There are upsides to all of this, but based on how we are and how we live and what we consume at the rate we consume at this point, it's obvious that we have maxed our resources, we've maxed out the earth, and if we don't change ourselves first and our planet second, and our surroundings, if we don't make at least a attempt to set ourselves up to win and our children up to win, then we can literally look at people dying off. I mean, they will, I'm sorry, but we can look at even more people dying off from cancer if we don't do these things now. You know, they could affect your family, my family, you know, nations. So there will be a lot that plays out. There's a lot of destiny at play all the time, and, you know, serendipity, but we do have choices in the day-to-day. We do have decisions we can make, and based on what you see, know, and understand, we can move more towards this Libra 9th house. Like, this is pure joy and peace in the same house, and it will want to open up for us, and it can, but we can't live in shadow aspects of all these archetypes. We have to have balance. like I said, if you find your sun sign and your 3 cell salts you're deficient in, that is step 1. That is the first step in you being whole, so that your life can feel whole, so that you can make a positive impact on this existence. But it all starts with us, and the less excuses we have based on how we're feeling and how we're doing, the, more success we will get to experience because we took initiative. So that's mostly all I wanted to say. There was one last thing that I keep forgetting in every video, so I'm just going to write it up here since it's the last. Vitamin B12 isn't present anywhere in nature. I'm a vegan. Well, I've tried to be vegan for a long time and have found that I need eggs at least for B vitamins, because without them, all kinds of problems. There isn't B12 produced in nature. Sorry. So the trick, the key, and what a lot of people don't know is that there's no B12 in nature because there has to be 2 elements present for nature to produce B12. And so when we have those 2 elements, when we have balanced levels intake of vitamin D and vitamin C, when they are in balance and we're getting healthy, regular doses of these vitamins, it creates B12 in our brain. We can't find it anywhere because we need to have 2 components completely equal for it to occur. This is enlightenment, this is anti-inflammation, this is antioxidant. When we have these, we can have this all by itself. And being someone that doesn't like to eat meat, being someone that doesn't like to eat a lot of B vitamins from meat and not being able to find them in nature, I have found this does work. This is real. This is true. If you have enough D3, which is helping your pituitary system, and you have enough C, which is helping to cool, soothe, and keep your pineal gland running at a good pace, then you attain this elusive nutrient that is responsible for higher consciousness. And you can attain that without eating meat. So that is something I have forgot to put in every video, and it's something that I have been talking to vegans about for a long time. You don't need to take synthetic B12. In fact, if you are not getting enough D and C, do not take B12, because when you are stimulating that crown chakra part of your brain and the lower parts of you are not balanced with these vitamins, you will start to create situations in your life that aren't aligned with enlightenment, that aren't aligned with your truth, because you're operating at a wonky frequency below and you're trying to heighten this frequency higher and higher, and it doesn't exactly like to work like that. Things like to feel balanced at first to create more awareness, more power, more sustainability next. But first you have to have the foundation. I really wanted to put that in there. All right, this is like a 3-hour video. Oh my God. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hope that made some sense, and talk to you guys soon.